Azara rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Two stars rose in the dawning light. Nikki and Abigail lies on the night, charting the heavens, the constellations true, not bound by illusion but by what's in view. But they whispered of summer, of gods in the flame, of Banana and Inky who called them by name. Through shadows of dogma they carry the spark, guided by starlight to rekindle the dark. Under the real sky the truth still burns, ancient voices in the heavens turn. Azara rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Under the real sky the truth still burns, ancient voices in the heavens turn. Azara rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Yeah. Maps redrawn where the cosmos spins, through silence and science their song begins. No longer chained to the seasons' disguise, they brought back the truth in the watcher's eyes. The circle was broken, the truth made whole. With courage and reason they honored the soul, for those who would seek what the ancients knew. The real sky speaks and the stars shine. Under the real sky the truth still burns, ancient voices in the heavens turn. Azara rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Under the real sky the truth still burns, ancient voices in the heavens turn. Azara rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Through cuneiform echoes and lunar signs, through Babylon's gates and forgotten lines, they lifted the veil with a steady hand. To see is reborn to reclaim the land. Under the real sky the vision's clear, the sidereal call for all to hear. Azara rising with radiant mind, truth reborn in the ancient light. Under the real sky the truth still burns. Under the real sky the truth still burns. Under the real sky the truth still burns. Under the real sky under the real sky
Kicking everybody's stuff on here, you guys. It doesn't do it automatically for me anymore. Welcome, everyone, to episode 6. We are here today with Michael Hartigan and Don Ptak of One Sky Astrology and Freedom Through Astrology, respectively. Obviously, we have Nikki here. It's Nikki's birthday, everyone.
Oh, stop.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's a good day.
21 years young again, huh?
Yes. 39, actually. No, just kidding.
How old are you? I can't
remember. Actually,
you don't have to tell anyone if you don't want to.
No, it's all right. I'm 43.
What's your social security number?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Okay, so today we're talking about evolutionary astrology. Now, we have a workshop coming up. I say we. I mean, I will be there, but I won't be doing very much. But we're going to be, Michael and Don are going to be running or hosting, or will be hosting, and they'll be doing an introduction, I believe, to evolutionary astrology this Wednesday. The link should be in the description. If it is not for some reason in the description, which that is a real possibility, you can just go onto the website. It's on the homepage, Sidereal International. Just click that image, and it will take you to the link. If for some reason you couldn't get to the link, you can let us know. Like we'll find a way to get you on that conversation. So definitely register for that. If you can't make it, the replay is free to ISAA members. If you're not a member, consider joining, you guys. It's like $39 for the year for the student membership. And you're not going to believe how much information that you will be bombarded with. I'm not talking about mailing like newsletters. We only do once a month. I'm talking about like our PDF library. We have obviously get access to the Sidereal Rising Academic Journal, which I'm pretty sure, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody else out there is doing that. I don't know that any of the other big astrology organizations are putting anything out like that right now. They probably have newsletters and stuff, but nobody's really going in like hard with the academic side. So you guys definitely check that out if you haven't already. All right, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let maybe Michael and Don, if you guys want to, Michael, you're at the top, you're on the top of my screen. That's why I keep saying you first. No offense. I just whoever I see on there first. If you guys want to give a little maybe introduction, let us know kind of how you got into evolutionary astrology, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Hey, cool. Yeah. So my name is Michael Hartigan. I practice out of just kind of my own little thing I call One Sky Astrology, and that's at oneskyastro.com. I got into evolutionary. Like I'm just one of those weirdos who always watch my transits and stuff, watch the sky, sort of like my mom used astrology, and I just like I didn't grow up with any kind of like scientific or religious prohibition against it. So I kind of paid attention, horoscope stuff, did tropical for a long time. By which I mean, like, that was the framework by which I like watched transits, like tried to sort of figure out what was really going on there. I got exposed to evolutionary astrology first through Mark Jones, just at the Pluto school, because he's uniquely awesome in a way that I resonated with. And I'll just leave it at that. So I got clued into what he was doing and the way he was talking about stuff. And he was talking about, especially what clued me in very early, was he was talking about the lunar nodes in these really developed ways. Like he had like a body of ideas about the lunar nodes, like way beyond like north nodes like Jupiter and south nodes like Saturn, or just past and future, or some transplant from the Vedic wisdom. He had ideas. So I started to check that out, and I took his course. It was like a sort of like a evolutionary astrology light. It was almost like just the core architecture of evolutionary astrology without a lot of the overhead and the more complicated stuff. And that took me eventually to study with Deva Green, who's the daughter of Jeffrey Wolf Green, who is the originator of the founder of evolutionary astrology. He's still alive, although he's in some seclusion in, like, I think in Hawaii, and his daughter Deva.
I didn't know he was still alive. That's awesome.
I think he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, really, to innovate a system and see it, I mean, in your own lifetime. Like, what a trip. That's a trip. So how did I come to it? Through Mark Jones, the short answer. And so I started to do the I signed up for all 3 modules of 3, the full coursework at the school, Jeffrey Wolf Green School of Evolutionary Astrology. I started that work in 2021, and or maybe 2020, and I started to kind of practice with it, or bring it out as the main framework for my work with astrology. I probably took about a year or 2. I've never completed. I'm not like a certified evolutionary astrologer in the Jeffrey Wolf Green School of Astrology, because they want everything in tropical, and they have like this test for certification.
Well, and they use porphyry houses too, right?
Yeah, it's a bunch of stuff that, like, the translation is a little. I know. I'd love it if Deva were interested in, like, how do you interpret this? Like, let's see if this makes sense in like X, Y, or Z framework. But it's not. It's like tropical, please. And that to me is like, I'm not going to complete 10 assignments, because they're all like a book each. And so I just took it. I kind of then became really interested, like Dawn and I are going to share a trajectory from here on out, became really interested in what of that tropical, like even sign tropical logic applies to like the real sky, the uneven constellations, or even just like, what if we switch the zodiac? Mark Jones encouraged us to try on sidereal. He encouraged us to do weird things, do different house systems, like very edgy stuff. And I took him up on that. And that has brought me to where I am today, which is using the evolutionary framework, the logic of evolutionary astrology, applying it to the kind of uneven 13 sign skies. I use the midpoint system. So thank you, Dawn, especially. Patience with that.
Hey, let's just have some fun.
Yeah.
Don, how did you get to this point?
Like everybody else, I get started with astrology with a newspaper astrology, and I paid attention to that on and off. And then back in 2016, 2017, I ran into a rough spot in my life, and I was working with, she's known as Susie Wu, and she read me my first full birth chart. I always just knew sun sign. She's like, no, there's a whole lot more than just sun sign. So she introduced me to it, and then I started reading up and exploring more. And I was taking courses with Cassandra Joan Butler out of, she lives actually out not stone's throw away from where I live, really. So I was studying with her, taking her course, taking one of her courses, and it was the final course of the one class, and or final class of one course. Dyslexia, I love it. And I was asking questions, and she goes, Don, you really got to look into evolutionary astrology, because every question you're asking is pointing at this or pointing this. And something inside of me, like bells and whistles, went off and said, you got to look into this. And she told me about Jeffrey Wolf Green and Stephen Forrest. So my introduction to evolutionary astrology was actually through a tropical astrologer, Cassandra Joan Butler. And so I looked at both of them, actually. I went to their websites, read everything, looked at how they did their courses. And I actually went with Stephen Forrest's structure and style. It resonated more with me. It spoke more to me. I come from whatever, spiritual background I feel like doing at the moment. I recovered Catholic and fundamentalist Christian. So if you can even ever do that. Oh, our special guest, Pat, for this interview. This is Silky. He seems to want to be clinging to me right now.
I didn't even see him. He was like completely.
Yeah, he's right here in he's jet black.
He is the darkness. Yes,
he is a baby. Aww.
He's huge compared to his siblings. He's a monster. But I came to Stephen Forrest, and as I bought his first book, The Inner Sky, and I was reading through it, and it's like, yeah, this makes sense to me. You're one of the things that I noted with people with astrology is like, I am a fill in your sign, and this is just the way I am. That makes people like feel like they're caught in some sort of prison. And Stephen Forrest says, no, your birth chart's your birth contract. It's not who you are, it's who you came to become. So it's like, to borrow a line from Stephen Covey, I think Stephen's the name of the game today. Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. Know what the goal is. Well, your birth chart is your evolutionary goal. That's your intention in life. And the transits are the lessons that you use to get to that. And so I took his first course on birth charts, and then he had a course on, I can't remember what it's called, but the book is called Yesterday's Sky, and it was about the nodes of the moon and past lives and karma and how it shows up in your life and how you release it. And I was digging through that. I was like, wow, this is really incredible stuff. So that was my deep introduction to the nodes of the moon. And then I took the Changing Sky, so I do transits. And if you go to my blog post or Facebook, Instagram, not sure where else to post it, but I do like a daily deep dive where I explore a transit just a little bit deeper. And so I came into astrology through that way. What else was I going to say? I came to 13 sign astrology through a Sidereal Astrology Facebook page, and took courses with Ike Rodriguez. And then Athen Shimenti was really my deep dive into 13 sign astrology. And his course was really, really good. I enjoyed that, especially for the introduction to Ophiuchus. I'm a history major. My undergraduate degree is in history, and my master's degree is in library sciences and library studies, whatever you want to call it. So, always wanting to dig, what are we missing from history? Because I know history is written a certain way. The newspapers are the current lie, the history books are the perpetual lie. Don't get me started. But they brought up that Ophiuchus, and I live out in the country. I can go out stargazing with the apps and stuff. And you set you set it for, different apps, and you set it for true sky. And you're looking, it's like, yeah, there's a fucus between Scorpio and Sagittarius. And even, the tropical astrologers, if they read decans, they do bring up a fucus. It's the first decan of Sagittarius. They bury it. They acknowledge it, but they bury it deeply, because not everybody reads the decans. So they're even admitting it. So, but making it its own sign, because it is a very large sign. I can't remember if it's, okay, I got 2 cats here today. So it's there. So I got into 13 sign through that. And then, in many incredible conversations with Michael introduced me to the 13 house system. Okay, I got to get cats off my table. They're going to do something. So Michael introduced me to the 13 houses, and what are we calling that? Equal house, Michael, where each sign is its own house.
Yeah, I call that not equal house. I call that when each house is equal, but a whole sign house system, when sign equals
whole sign.
house.
Michael introduced me to whole sign, and the more I worked with that, the more it made sense and eliminated a lot of confusion from the charts. I think, and Michael and I have had conversations about this. Stephen Forrest, even in his lectures and stuff, brings this up. If you're confusing your client, you're not doing them a service. And that house system made things much more clear and much more workable for myself and my own chart. When I applied it to myself, it's like, oh my gosh, this makes so much better sense. And then applying it to other people's charts, it does. It helps clarify things so much. So
we do things the same way, Don. We do things
very similar, yeah.
Midpoint constellational with a whole sign house system, applying this evolutionary logic, which is taught in an even sign tropical kind of language. And so that is interesting. I also want to say it was just like that for me when I started to practice in when I saw that Scorpio Ophiuchus really made like one house, like an eighth house, natural eighth house, and I started to do whole sign house system. You and I both wear glasses, and so I'll share this with you. It's like being at the optometrist, and when they do a lot of is this better or worse, better or worse, better or worse, and then it, at a certain point it clicks in for everyone. I could draw this analogy. It's like getting one of those seeing eye pictures with the dots. It's like 1 second your nose is here and you're like, why am I this close to a book or this page, and the next minute you're like in a 3D world. It comes into focus. And whole sign house system with midpoints, that for me, it just eliminated so much confusion, brother. It was just like that.
Hey, I don't know what midpoint system is. I hear you guys talk about that. What is that?
Nah.
That's okay. Yeah.
Do I have that much or right?
Yeah, I'll take that. So the way the ecliptic, right, is divided into signs, tropical handles that from ascension declination 0, where a celestial equator crosses the ecliptic. That's 0. And it goes around from there in 30-degree segments around the ecliptic: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, right? And that's the zodiac most people are used to. But midpoints is a system of delineating signs that takes kind of the main form stars of one sign and the main form stars of the next constellation. So we're talking about constellations when we talk about midpoints. And I maybe we'll get a visual later if I'm not able to.
Yeah, that will help. I need pictures. Yeah.
Well,
so it's taking the major. Well, hold on. Let me see if I get it, because this is what I heard. Okay, and I'm assuming some people in the audience heard too.
Feed it back. Yeah.
So you're saying that they take the major stars in the constellation and then they make that the middle of the sign?
okay, so this midpoint system was designed by Athan Chimenti. And what he did, because I've talked to him about this at length, and what he did was took the sort of last major stars, the stars closest to the ecliptic, and the first stars of the next group, and simply took those calculations out to seconds and calculated a midpoint in between the last star of the one and the first star of the next. So let me call up some software. I'll show you what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, I would still take the visual. That makes sense to hear it, but who decides what the major stars
Who
are?
decides? Well, look, these are lines. These are to your question. They're not arbitrary. They're not random, but they're decided. We just decide.
okay.
So we have to take it a little bit like,
Yeah.
you know, we don't take this. Yeah, this isn't set in stone.
I gotcha.
It's like any other line in the sky. It's
Okay.
not there. But great question.
Yeah. Just to share another perspective on that, some astrologers use the IAU boundaries. And in Athan Chimenti's course, he points out that if you go on the Fucus Scorpio boundary and you zoom in using astrology software, you will find stars of Scorpio actually in a Fucus.
Like Antares, which is tough to
if you go like really fine in, you'll find that. And so what I say in I do a weekly forecast and I post it on YouTube. In the zodiac belt, and this is my take on it, with that IAU boundary, those boundaries are arbitrarily drawn.
Yeah.
This is where we want it. So my take on that is Athan Chimenti said, you know, my understanding is that this is the last bright star in the ecliptic or zodiac belt. This is the last bright star of this constellation. This is the first bright star of the next constellation. What's the halfway point between the two? That's the new boundary. I keep it sweet and simple.
Yeah, you said it, man. I'm trying to. Yeah, but I can show it. That's one thing I'll be able to do in about 30 seconds.
I'm on my cell phone, so I can't pull up my software and play today.
Yeah.
So Michael, you're in charge of the graphics today, Michael.
Yeah.
I can do visuals. Yeah. Okay, so let me just get oriented here.
Well, I had a reading with Michael, and it was about 6 months of playing with house systems after that. Because the way you did it, I was like, I've never seen anybody do it that way before. That's so easy. Like, that's so much better. And it's like uncomplicates things. But I had to test it. And I tested it. And I was like, this is fucking awesome.
It does work.
It's working. And I tried so hard to like figure, I was like, there's got to be a kink somewhere. There's like nothing just works this easy.
Right.
But it does. It just does. It just flows so much better. I absolutely love using that house system.
I know.
Yeah.
Whole sign was the first way that people noticed that house system, like different parts of the chart applied to different areas of people's lives. Like whole sign. There was never a drawing of like separate houses until later. I don't know exactly when. And all the confusion around house. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the house system in relation to astrology is a development of Babylon. And that was, depending on who you talk to, somewhere between 500 to 300 BC. But the Babylonians didn't ascribe any particular meaning to those areas. It was more just for like a degree system to be able to track where things were. So whatever developed during the Hellenistic period, that's basically when, but they were using a 30-degree system because that's what they got from the Babylonians.
Yeah. But as far as I understand it, when Ptolemy described in the Tetrabiblos the idea of house system, he made reference to whole sign being like, I think foundational, but he also equated the midheaven with the 10th house and the IC or anti-midheaven with the 4th house, except he didn't give any instructions on how to calculate where the other houses were. So that's why we have a million systems that all use MCIC. But as far as I've heard from anyone, like about the Babylonian idea. The idea that house systems originated with like middle period Babylonian astrology, like after they'd been doing even sign and stuff. They were just equating like, oh, so this sign is like also has like an area of life associated with it. And that's my understanding. Is that your understanding, Abby, or were they doing something different with like houses in like an inner wheel?
They were just trying stuff out, and
Sure.
It was another way to ascribe more meaning, get more details. So they took it, saw the opportunity and kind of jumped on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. Not wanting to put you on the spot in like a definitive way. I know you weren't there.
I like being on the spot. I'm all right.
Cool. But I'm just sort of been under the I've been under the impression since I started working with it that it's just like the easiest, cleanest like way to organize houses. And it makes the most sense when you just connect with people on like, oh, so that looks like this house is, and then people have a narrative that like reflects that. So
Okay. I got another question from my I don't know anything about evolutionary astrology mindset here. Which, by the way, you guys, if anybody out there has any, definitely let us know. So probably a stupid question, given how far we are into the conversation, but what is evolutionary astrology? Like,
it's not a stupid question. If you don't know the answer, it's not a stupid question.
I have a general idea because I talk to Nikki every day, and I know that's primarily what she does. I suspect. Well, I'll just shut up. I'll just let you guys tell me. Go ahead.
Well, I have an idea. I want to put something forward. Dawn, while you think of an answer to that question, I got this visual up, and I want to show Abby what we're talking about when we talk about midpoint systems. I want to go back.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Dawn, does that work for you?
Yeah. Go ahead. Shoot.
Okay.
Go for it. Cool. Yeah. Share the midpoint system, and then we'll talk about what is evolutionary astrology.
Yeah. Nice. So I'm wondering how to share my screen.
I don't know. It's gotta. You should just be able to.
Okay, I see. I didn't need any extra permissions or anything.
Okay.
That's really good.
Okay, add to the scene. Let's add it to the scene.
So it's shared to you as a source. Perfect. All right, so these are the transits, like, let's see, right now. And this is a way of looking at the skies. And this is what we're talking about.
Is that Prometheus?
Yes, this is Capricorn, Prometheus, and I'm going to set this to okay. This is a way of looking at the ecliptic. And this is the celestial equator right here. And this is the ecliptic. So where they cross, right here, tropical astrology starts with these 30 degrees are Aries and these 30 degrees are Taurus, and so on around until we get to Aquarius and Pisces. And that's what this looks like in the sky. We have Aries here for anyone who hasn't really seen this. Here's Pisces. Okay, this is tropical astrology. So this is why we do sidereal astrology. And when we do sidereal astrology, here is like the first thing we see when we translate that to Fagan-Bradley. We see Aries now kind of like this. So like here's some of Taurus, right? It's like in Aries. And here's Pisces. It's in Aries. Now this is Fagan-Bradley. And Cyril Fagan set this up to be the most accurate even sign system, even like an improvement on Lahiri from a sidereal accuracy point of view. This guy was like neurotically dedicated to excellence, Cyril Fagan. And this is what we have. So let me show you now. I'm going to switch to the midpoint system, and you'll probably see immediately why people use it, even though like who knows where the midpoints are. We make this up, and yeah, we do. So here is the kind of like last main form of stars of Aquarius, and here's like the first main form of stars of Pisces. So the midpoint system literally takes like this star and just boop, math, divide by 2, and take that value. In some cases, we run into some kind of interesting things because here's the main form star of Aries. But then we see that Taurus comes out to here. So we're drawing a midpoint here. And so on the whole way around. Here we have Orion poking up into the zodiac, and Capricorn Prometheus in its current iteration doesn't handle the insertion of an Orion sign, but it reaches into the ecliptic band, and some people consider planets, especially down like south of the ecliptic, right here, not to be in Gemini or Taurus, but whatever. I'm digressing.
I use Auriga and Orion.
Yeah, people do, and but I'm just talking about the limits of breaking up the zodiac in this software Capricorn Prometheus. You can break it into 13 sections right now. And here's where we have what Dawn was referring to, because if you actually take like a fucus crosses the ecliptic, like somewhere, like somewhere like right here, like literally the bounds of a fucus go like that or something, right? And I'm just making this up, but like when you use IAU boundaries, Antares actually gets put in a fucus becomes huge, and Scorpio becomes something like a 6-degree sign, and I think that's great. I also think it ignores this much of Scorpio, which I don't like. Do that at your peril, like, please. I'm not even kidding. So I take this and I make this into one house, one sort of like house correlate. So Scorpio Ophiuchus is like an 8th house that speaks about duality, speaks about transformation, speaks about polarity and dichotomy in the way that 8th house does. But that, I think, is the essence of the midpoint system. We're using simple math between last stars in a star group and first stars in a star group. Does that make sense, Abby, seeing the visual? Is that helpful?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you. It's still weird just to to decide which stars get to be the boundary like that. I don't know, that will make sense to me, but I also I don't roll with fixed boundaries in the sky anyways. Everything's very fluid.
I don't either.
So
everything's very fluid, and these are just sort of these are things when people ask me like, oh my gosh, is it like 0.08 seconds or 0.09? No, seriously, people they get very concerned, and it's like these like there's a debate out there about whether cusps are real or not. Like cusps.
My God, stop!
Like,
my entire chart is cusps. My entire chart is cusps. So like, come on.
So there's a reality to blended energies. But
when a person's really got cusps, I tell them you're finishing the lessons of sign A and beginning the lessons of sign B.
Oh, absolutely. My moon is right in between Capricorn and Aquarius, and I got like this weird thing going on with it.
So there's no cusp? Are they saying that there's not like an area of overlapping meaning?
Some people believe that cusps don't exist, like birds aren't real or something, and that you go from full stop 100% Leo to like now you're in Virgo.
That's crazy.
No, that's shit. Nothing works like that. Absolutely nothing in nature works like that. Yeah, it's bent. So we talk about this in like approximate, like transitional ways, right? We're done. To Chelsea's question that just popped up on the screen, her comment about Cyril Fagan doing math by hand. Like Cyril Fagan was alive in the 50s, 60s, 70s. They had computers, not the robust computers we have today, but they had computing technology. They weren't figuring this out on abacus. I think the discrepancies, like when we look at Cyril Fagan, it's terribly accurate, but just trying to fit a 30-degree even sign zodiac onto the living skies is just going to leave you with discrepancies somewhere.
Well, in defense of Cyril Fagan, he did his best to check his information against the Babylonian texts, and part of the reason why. So, like, maybe if I forget which star, was something over, was it in Taurus that you had pointed out? So, like, if his stars don't necessarily match up, like, with the current boundaries, that's because in some cases he's going based on what these old stars were, which means that in the boundaries across the last 5,000 years have changed. They're not.
Yeah.
It's it's also a fluid, kind of arbitrary. So I don't know if that helps either, Chelsea.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was definitely doing a lot of stuff by hand. He was working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually reading a primer of Sidereal right now, and I can't believe I never read it. Right? It's actually one of the things you'll have access to when you become a student member.
Yeah,
so,
you guys.
Yeah, you get access to all these books you get to read. So I've been digging around in there. It's amazing. It's amazing, and his work is actually incredible. So I'm kind of over here like today years old. The last couple of days reading it, I've been super, super excited.
I think Fagan or Cyril Fagan is like none of us would be here probably having this conversation without him.
Yeah,
So.
not at all. This is his work is incredible.
Great.
Back to Scorpio Ophiuchus. So that's when I kind of hopped on the astrology train.
Wait, time out. Time out. We got to go back. What is evolutionary?
What is evolutionary astrology?
Let's get to Dawn.
Do you know how to
what
take
is
it down?
evolutionary astrology? I'll tackle this.
Let's see. I thought that was a you thing.
I'll try. Let's see. I think I can.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay, got it.
There we go. Hey, we're back.
All right.
What is evolutionary astrology? Evolutionary astrology, and I've got my book Yesterday's Sky in front of me, and I'm looking at the book, like the first book that actually mentions the phrase evolutionary astrology by Raymond Merriman says, this is the title, Evolutionary Astrology, The Journey of the Soul Through States of Consciousness. And even other titles, The Evolutionary Journey of the Soul. It's about evolutionary astrology says to me, you're working towards becoming, when you're born, you have your birth chart. Your birth chart is who you came here to become. So it's your growth towards becoming, towards your fulfilling your birth contract, what's written in your chart. Your chart's your birth contract. So it's your journey towards learning who this person is that you came to be. I'll use myself as an example. Just keep it simple. I'm a Taurus sun. There are some astrologers who sit there, you're a Taurus, and they will spell it out black and white, and you're stuck there. Evolutionary astrologer will say, you are learning to become a Taurus. Your aim is to learn how to find peace and calm in life. These are some strategies you can use. These are some helpful tactics. So it's more like being an astrologer counselor than carving things in concrete and leaving you stuck. So for me, it's helping you realize your chart. Your chart isn't there. Like I said, there are people who say you're stuck being in Aries, you're stuck being whatever. I'm telling you, you came here to learn the lessons of becoming your chart. I don't know if Michael, you want to add something onto that?
Yeah. Outside of the application of evolutionary astrology, I think I could talk a little about Jeffrey Wolf Green, like this guy, crazy guy. First of all, Nam vet, and in Vietnam, I was having like just real like overblown experiences, total trauma, of course. Trauma load like pushed him out into having like psychic conversations with like I think a Buddhist monk over there, and these psychic conversations directed him to this Vedantic temple, and he became attuned to Vedanta Also, then, like after the war, like moving forward in life, he
Mm.
was greatly interested in astrology, and he was an astrologer. And at a certain point, and I'm going to put this point in the like 1970s, maybe early 70s, 71, he had a dream which involved Swami Sri Yukteswar. Now, Swami Sri Yukteswar wrote The Holy Science. The Holy Science is a book on Vedic astrology and astronomy. Most people know Swami Sri Yukteswar not as an astrologer. He does have his own Ayanamsa, but most people know Swami Sri Yukteswar because he was so many names. Paramahamsa Yogananda, he was his guru. He was the guru of the guy that brought yoga to the West. Swami Sri Yukteswar. Yeah, Paramahamsa Yogananda. So, Swami Sri Yukteswar appeared to Jeffrey Wolf Green in dreams and spoke to him in hours in Sanskrit that Jeffrey Wolf Green could understand in the dream full well. It was one dream. It was a super huge download. He broke down the principles of evolutionary astrology, what the nodes, what Pluto, this, that, and he left, and that was like all Jeffrey Wolf Green got. So Jeffrey Wolf Green spent a period of time organizing the information, recalling the information, processing, Sanskrit memories into English and like whatever that looked like. And he spent time after he organized it testing it. And 10 years later, he wrote Pluto, Volume 1, because one of the things that Swami Sri Yukteswar had revealed him was the importance of dwarf planet Pluto, that it represents the individual soul, like within the spiritual matrix represented by Neptune and Pisces. Pluto is the deep subconscious part of us that transcends death, that survives reincarnation, right? Whatever you think reincarnates. You can call it a soul. That's what Jeffrey Wolf Green calls it. So within evolutionary astrology, I would say it's characterized by a more developed science of how the soul is interacting with archetypes and energies and evolutionary forces at the level of soul, at the deep, like and subconscious levels. And I would contrast it to kind of more mainstream astrologies by saying that most people approach mainstream astrology, they want to know what their sun sign or their sun moon ascendant is, or like it's very conscious, it's very surface level, it's very much about the personality. People are basically asking like, what are my thresholds? What's the nature of this thing? How far can I, can I succeed? Where are my angles to success? It's all very conscious, ego driven. Here we're in evolutionary astrology. We're immediately dropping below the level of conscious egoic influence. And we're looking at, we get a language, we get a whole language to look at the influences that are coming from, from beyond the boundaries of this life, from prior life experience. We start to see patterns that start to be able to generate valuable information. And we start to see the effects of, well, within that logic, you just start to see, you get a language more for how the outer planets are working with the inner planets. It's not a language that inheres in Vedic, because Vedic doesn't use the outer planets. And it's not something that most mainstream or like kind of available astrologies really brought in about the outer planets. So just to give a really rough kind of a like nutshell version of what I'm talking about, Uranus is understood as correlating with the subconscious. So where Moon and Mercury have a lot to do with thinking, right, and conscious mind and the way we experience like thoughts in a linguistic way, Uranus is acting as a go-between between the deep desires of Pluto, the soul level desires to experience, desires to evolve along certain lines, and we start to see, you can see where those deep soul level desires differ from conscious desires, and the juxtaposition there, the cognitive dissonance that's created in people's lives because they're drawn in one direction here and in another direction here, right? And so what you have when you take all that is a model for doing astrology that really works very well for people who are experiencing patterns in their life, right? Patterns in their life. They don't understand the pattern. Where is it coming from? Why does this keep happening? The pattern, especially if the pattern's causing frustration or detriment in their life, a certain approach to astrology that's egoic is like, oh, it's so top heavy and likely to blame everything on the person. Honestly, I've seen astrologers do that bad astrology move so many times, or I've had to like undo it via seeing their prior clients. But it gives you a very developed language. It gives you a very developed, more developed than in other branches of astrology. That I've seen a map for outer planets and how nodes are interacting, how the whole thing is holistically, how the whole chart is holistically interacting. And it has great agency in unsticking, like leveraging karmic like the blockages, just stuff you can get past. It's a light. It's a light in that darkness. It's serious stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that, actually. It's the pattern stuff. It's the repeated patterns that people get stuck in, that they carry over. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, we carry these patterns over. We have past memories. We have a whole bunch of stuff we take with us when we start this journey. And what bothered me so much about just regular Western astrology was I wasn't getting the answers I wanted when it came to the lunar nodes. It was like South node bad, North node good. Like that didn't make any sense to me at all. And when you're watching the patterns within people and yourself, you see that it oscillates back and forth. We need it. We need the South node just as much as the North node. And one of the coolest things that I discovered when I started this journey was that the South node is usually the baseline personality of the person. That they are. They're that baseline personality. And mine's like right on the galactic center. So I'm like, maybe that's why. Like, is that why? So like,
oh boy.
My energy is too much for some people. So So I guess
it's interesting that you correlate nodes to personality, because in evolutionary astrology, one of the things that was revealed to Jeffrey Wolf Green is like, no, this is all wrong. They say the sun is the ego and the moon is the feelings. Moon is the ego. Just everyone who's listening, just get it in your head. This is a model. Try it out. Moon is actually the fundamental emotional patterning that goes to our direct impressions. Our first thoughts are like toward away impulse on anything. Moon is our interior felt sense of self. Game it out. There's no better word for it than ego. It's interior felt selfhood. The sun, he said, is actually an integration point for the whole chart. And it's how you organize your life. So one Taurus sun is not going to be another Taurus sun because like they're both Taurus suns, but they have different charts to organize. They'll both organize their individual charts in Taurian ways. That's one of the insights that came out of this strain of astrology.
Stephen Forrest and Jeffrey Wolf Green actually had a disagreement on Pluto, because Jeffrey Wolf Green, you said that the Pluto was the soul. Stephen Forrest teaches that Pluto is the wound to the soul.
Interesting.
So they do have that point of disagreement where Pluto, and I've got my cheat sheet notes in front of me. It says, Pluto, where do you carry the wise wound and what gave it to you? Where do you go to retrieve your soul?
So which one plays out in data, Don? Like of those two things, have you tried them both out? Like which one's more accurate if you had to pick?
I've only studied with Stephen Forrest, but I've noted when I go to when I say that the moon is the soul, because that's your emotional self. All your memories are emotional memories, not logical by any stretch of the sky. But that south node, when I'm working with people and I pull up their south node, the number of times I've had people, and I take my glasses off so I don't break them again, just do this. Oh my God, that makes so much sense. South node, how are you holding yourself back? What unconscious assumptions are you making about yourself? And how are you repeating and looping these behaviors of the past? How are you holding yourself back? So I think Stephen Forrest, and this is my interpretation of it, the moon is more the soul. That's your emotional self, because that's the only thing that can come back is that emotional memory, not a logical. So the moon, that whole emotional track comes back. The south node is revealing how you're repeating those patterns, and the north node is the journey that helps you to heal and release them. So, and when I'm talking with people and I share that south node, this is how you hold yourself back in life. And the number of times people are like, oh my gosh, that explains so much. And Stephen Forrest does in his book on the water, in his section on Pluto, in the birth chart, he says that if you want to read read the wound, you find Pluto, find the house, find the sign, and then he just walks through. This is how you interpret the Plutonian wound. But Jeffrey Wolf Green and Stephen Forrest had a disagreement on what the role of Pluto was. As Michael says, for Jeffrey Wolf Green, Pluto was the soul, but for Stephen Wound, Pluto was the wound to the soul.
So what's the north node then?
The north node is your ultimate evolutionary strategy. This is how you release the karma. So if you're doing a past life, your south node helps you understand what the past life and what the karmic wound is. Your north node is how you heal that wound and how you release it in this lifetime.
That is interesting. He took some of his own sort of ideas, and he seems to have kind of put him in a pot, tasty stew pot with the evolutionary astrology strain, and kind of developed his own recipe, as it were, because the north node south node thing, it's similar. Yeah, it's similar, but the Pluto thing, I think, might be similar too, depending on how you consider Pluto. Like at a soul level, I think, and it might be relative to like this point in history and the age that we like have lived through, you know, or maybe the set of ages that we've lived through, if you listen to some, you know, histories. But there's just such trauma. There's such trauma right now that like all souls, I mean, souls are doing like one of two things, like either like A, being enlightened, and I don't know what that looks like, or like B, trying to heal, you know. There's more, I think, that Jeffrey Wolf Green talked about being encapsulated in Pluto, because he saw, and this from the sort of original strain of this knowledge, he saw Pluto as describing the unconscious desires that drive the life forward. And not all of those are going to fall into a category of like this kind of wound or that kind of wound, you know, like an aspect relationship from Pluto to, you know, let's just say Pluto trying to Mercury is going to be a person who has some soul level, like at the level of like moving through lifetimes. This comes through like deeply and strongly to, you know, when you mix Pluto Mercury, you really get a lot to do with secrets, with seeing what's under the surface of things, with seeing deeply, with seeing into inner workings, and you know, it lends itself to depth psychology and stuff. And you can never say anything just inventing one aspect. You'd have to see a chart. But the way evolutionary astrology would look at that wouldn't be to say, well, Pluto has like a mental wound, not in the strain that I came from, but it would be to say Pluto has some business. Like there's some soul level business that's going to be involved in like depth intellectual penetration, understanding, right, at depth. So I hear you. Like,
Yeah.
there's room for all that in your world, and there's room for everything you're saying in mine, which is really cool. There
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like one right way to do evolutionary astrology, but I mean that. I mean that very sincerely. You know, I can talk about how I do it, what works for me, and people as they carry that torch, they you know, they mix it in with their own family recipes, and it changes. So
can I share something with you guys that will hopefully validate some of what you guys are saying?
Sure,
So I obviously everybody hopefully at this point understands that I do Mesopotamian astrology, but you know, I recognize that the outer planets obviously have an impact on us, some of the, you know, different points and everything. So early in my studies, I went through and I tried to figure out, because after the things that they say that the planets do failed miserably, and I was humiliated in public in readings, I decided that, okay, I got to figure out what these do. I know intuitively they do something, but it's clearly not this. So I went through and I started tracking them. Now keep in mind, I'm a relative isolationist, not because because I want to be. I'm a dork, you guys. I just research all the time. You know, I don't hang out. I just research, I read, so I didn't really know about, I mean, I'd heard about evolutionary astrology, but I didn't look into it trying to be like, oh, what is this all about or whatever. But what I did do is I just tracked the planets, and I was like, okay, like, let's see what's happening. And I tried different things out. What's interesting is that I found that, I'm gonna concur with all the stuff that you said, but I'm telling you because I verified it independently, not knowing that this was its own thing. But Pluto, I have found that it absolutely represents your soul. It's very Agnya chakra. It's very much related to like your high level spiritual body and whatever that comes with, whether it's your karma, it's your psychic abilities. It's definitely like this higher level information. I see the same thing with what you guys are talking about with the South Node. Now I usually do read the South Node at like the end of a chart, because in my view, the whole sky is telling you a story. And you can't really, at least in my experience, you don't really know exactly what your karma is and what your past life experience is until you're looking at the present. And then you can like backtrack and be like, okay, because it's, you know, it's just building on the story. But I found that the South Node is basically like this past life experience and karma, which everybody like Nikki is saying, like, this is the basic stuff that you're coming back with, the stuff that you came here to fix. And then I look at the North Node, and I say I look at it this way, not because somebody told me to do it, but because this is what worked. It fits seamlessly into the whole system, which was like, this is what your deep soul journey is like aspiring. This is what you're trying to, and it's usually something they have a hard time with. I don't know what the North Node is for other people. It's like,
I've noticed that it's the hard, like those lessons that come with the North Node that you have to choose. They give you choices, and you're like, oh, do I want to stay comfortable or do I want to actually grow?
And that's because it's trying to, that's the spiritual journey, like the evolutionary journey. So it's really cool to hear you guys talk about this. I'll say too, with Uranus, what you were saying, Michael, because you described it, I've never heard anybody describe it that way, where it's basically like these subconscious desires. But what I have found is that, and this goes against what most people say Uranus does, but I have found that it relates to the things that people are the most deeply passionate about, but it's like stuff that they want to do that they don't necessarily, like, society's telling them, no, go get a 9-to-5 and just be miserable for the rest of your life. But it's like all the deep stuff. And if you go through all of these like amazing musicians and artists, and like, you know, people have made this profound impact on the world around them, it was in relation to their Uranus. Not necessarily like the actual thing that they created, but it was like that driving force that really propelled them to finally like step into it and make it happen. So it's just really cool to have no idea of what evolutionary astrology is, and to like be able to independently completely verify everything you guys are saying. And it makes perfect sense. And you guys, I got a reading from Michael, and it was cool because you're like the first person in a really like long time, maybe ever actually, who does like Western astrology. And I wasn't sitting there just like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind right now. You didn't talk about the elements. You just, like everything you're saying. I'm like, yeah, like, you're speaking my language. I totally understand.
Oh.
You know.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm honored. Thanks. Yeah, I don't mess with dignities and debilitation and all these Hellenistic stuffs, but yeah, the evolutionary. I want to say it seems to me that the wisdom contained in that strain, that evolutionary strain that came down to Jeffrey Wolf Green, is it's not anything that is like newly, I mean, maybe say some of it seems new, some of it was like new and innovative, but it wasn't anything that was like, no, I'm wrong. I have to walk this back. I was going to say it's nothing really new. It's just actually astrology like described better, but it actually was new. He introduced like new things like this knowledge of Pluto. No one had that. So he taught in his like original teachings, the DVDs that were recorded to get the classes. Like if you go to the Jeffrey Wolf Green School of Evolutionary Astrology, you will get DVDs, and they're Jeffrey Wolf Green, and he talks about the nodes, and he is saying the South Node, Abby, is our fortress. The South Node is our fortress where we are comfortable, where we have, it's our A game. It's what we're familiar with from prior experience. And he said the North Node is our jungle. It's where on that evolutionary trajectory, it's what symbolizes what we have yet to explore, or where we have across the way, like how we have to grow and learn. So a lot of times people would, before evolutionary astrology, I think people in the West had a conception that the goal was to like move to your North Node and accomplish North Node stuff because that was good. And that's like a cool understanding, but it is admittedly remedial, because now we have an understanding that says the North Node and South Node actually work together. They're the head and tail of a dragon, and this dragon represents the line of our destiny in our life. It has to work together. The South Node and the North Node are an axis that need to be, we can think of it as everyone's personal paradox that needs to be reconciled, right? That where we're strong and where we have to grow, and bringing those two together. And yeah, in many cases, it's about doing some of the stuff we're familiar with, but doing it in new ways, making new choices relative to like old things. And I think that's all I want to say on that. But the way Jeffrey Wolf Green talked about the nodes was just as like jungle and fortress, you know.
Yeah, I watched his lecture on the psychodynamics of the moon, and that's what got me in. I was like just so into it, but I didn't know anything about astrology like that. I'd never approached it in that way before. And that was around the 2020 time. So, you know, I was kind of homebound and sick. I had nothing to do but stare at screens and stuff. And so it got me started. So, but what drove me nuts was that I had been practicing tropical. I had been using it, and I was not getting the same results every time. And it was so frustrating. So that's actually part of what kicked off my sidereal constellational studies. We had our reading, Michael, and when you put my Pluto in the second house, like I already had all the Pluto books. I already had all this stuff, and I wasn't reading it there. I was using a different house system. Yeah. And that's why I went completely like nuts for like 6 months. I'm like, how is
Pluto
this so
will do that? Pluto, right?
Like this is just, I read like the house that it was in and all the, and I'm like, okay, I had to set it down. I was like, this is too real for me. I was like, this is crazy. How is this real? I love it. But it got me hooked, and it was one rabbit hole after another. Sorry, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things we haven't discussed when we're talking about house systems, and both Michael and I are referring to the same book, everybody reads the house systems counterclockwise.
That's right.
They're supposed to be read clockwise. They're supposed to follow the path of the sun. That's in the there's actually a book on that, but Manilius writes about that, and Michael and I have actually had conversations about this. The houses are supposed to follow the path of the sun, so we're supposed to actually be reading them clockwise, not counterclockwise. So that's another way people get disassociated from their chart. Is they're, again, we're putting the stars where they were back in ancient Rome, and then we're divorcing the house system from what the original ways it was read. So, if you're reading it, if you're having astrology read and it's not making sense to you, well, there's strike one and strike two. So going back to, I think, evolutionary astrology, and then I have a book, one of the things I did some reading about in my, tropical to sidereal transition was Vedic astrology. And I have in one of my books on Vedic astrology, when a child is born, the parents document that. And then they go to the astrologer. Here's the information. Who is this child? Tell us how we should raise them.
Yep.
Who are they destined to become? That seems to be embedded right in the Vedic tradition.
Yeah, no age limit.
So,
That's how I knew. Like, the tropical wasn't working. I was applying it to my kids, my spouse, my parents, everything, and I'm like, why doesn't this? Why
doesn't this crap work? Well, let's figure out why. It's broken. It's a clock that was broke back in ancient Rome.
Clock. Yes.
I want to jump in here and address some comments on the screen I saw that Chelsea.
I'm not able to read the comments because I'm on my cell phone here.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
I can get that. I can understand that. She asked, when I was talking about the North Node and the South Node working together, she made an observation that this dragon, the head of the dragon and the tail of the dragon, is actually like an Ouroboros, like a serpent eating its tail. And that's exactly it. That's exactly it. The North Node refers back to the South Node. The South Node refers back to the North Node. And it's not like we're trying to leave a bad thing behind and get somewhere. It's all right where we are. This is nodes of the moon. This is all very present, very immediate. But the idea, I think, of bringing the nodes together to work as one thing, and this idea of like reconciling paradox, it goes to the mysterious symbolism of the Ouroboros. Like this, it takes a little bit mystical gymnastics sometimes to really. Most of us vacillate between the nodes. Most of us do South Node stuff and then boing, North Nodes. We have areas and phases of our life that are dominated by South Node or North Node. And it's not even until later life that most people get a chance to meaningfully like bridge their nodes, bridge that axis, unify that whole thing. So that's been my experience with it. But I wanted to say, Chels, thanks for that great observation. That's exactly the idea.
Yeah. One of the other things, not related to the nodes, but I forgot to tell you. I also see, and I know in Jyotisha or Vedic astrology, the moon is obviously more important. That tracks in Mesopotamia too. But I have seen I don't really look at the moon as an emotional planet, luminary. I don't see the emotion so much, but I do see the ego aspect and also the mental aspect, which tracks in Mesopotamia. So the way the word for Nana or Suen, which is what they call the moon in Babylon, the way it's written, it literally spells out Zu-En or Enzu, which means Lord of Wisdom. And as the keeper of time, which is a very subjective, ego-driven construct in the first place, he's the master of like all this knowledge and wisdom, and he's holding on to it. So there's definitely I just wanted to, before I forgot about it, say that goes back, that fits in the Mesopotamian system as well.
I work in a public school, grades 5 through 12, so I see the emotional outbursts. I walked into school one day and I said, "We're gonna have a full moon today. This is the time."
Well, sure, it can
Lo and
do it. I'm not
behold,
saying.
yeah,
I mean,
I
we're
mean,
mostly water. It has an influence on us, but
yeah.
is that I look at body chemistry, and I don't know if this is something you guys can, if you see, but I look at specific body chemistry issues, hormones, especially
Yeah.
like for fertility stuff, testosterone, estrogen. I see that as being primarily a Mars function. There may be some Jupiter aspect of that too when it comes to procreation, but I don't really see that. Yes, the moon has an influence on us, definitely,
Mhm.
like nobody could deny that.
Yeah.
But honestly, if some of the other planets were a little bit closer, they'd be pulling on the water in our bodies too.
Oh,
We have
yeah.
those internal ties. So
Yeah, yeah. I have a question for you, Abby. Just this,
Mhm.
just real quick. Where's your moon? What sign? What stars is your moon in?
Oh my God, Nikki, help! Where's my
It's on
moon?
Himalayan Aries.
Oh, that's right. It's an
Oh,
Aries. Sorry, guys.
moon on Hamal. Okay, okay. So that's I mean, you would probably interpret that as the shepherd, right? Dumuzi, and as a more like protective kind of like natural, like oriented to nature, kind of like a nice, but
No, I wouldn't.
okay, then
No.
how is Aries to you?
That's the head of Nama or Tiamat too. A lot of times it's in Tiamat, in
It's like
Cetus or
Cetus,
Tethys.
like down in
Yes.
Cetus. Okay,
So we're
okay.
looking at raw, savage, creative power, which sure that can be
Yeah.
vegetation and life, but it can also be blowing shit up. Just depends on the day,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. But
Yeah.
it's also pretty undeniably fiery energy. Now
Yeah.
here's where I was going with this
Okay.
already, like regardless of your answer, here's where I was going.
Okay.
I've seen moon in Cancer, moon in Pisces. I've seen moon in Scorpio be emotional as a primary method, a way of processing experience, like do it through the feelings. When people like I'm a Capricorn moon. That's through physical, it's through bodily, it's like I'm not I'm not an overly emotional, like my moon doesn't express overly emotional Capricorn. And I wouldn't expect an Aries moon. I'd expect insight and energy from an Aries moon, but I wouldn't expect a lot of emotionality. But I will say only that for some stars, they affect the moon. They make people very feeling, so emotional, and just touched, affected in just a direct way by the world around them. It's how they're processing the
I don't
world.
how you think you can separate that from Venus and Mars in a chart? Because I don't know that you can.
No. I'm not saying that just because moon is here, then it's totally separated. I'm talking
No.
holistic.
Okay.
But when you say moon, I think this moon is a little bit more than how we're thinking. It's a little bit more than how we're feeling. It's ego's good, but what we're really talking about is like direct perception. Now, how are
Mm.
people doing that? It's the stars color how it's happening,
Mm.
and the stars can color the moon to make the act of perception more, elementally emotional. It's some people are emotional moons. That's my argument. And some people are non-emotional moons, because the stars that they're in just aren't really like driven
Okay,
by
but hold
feeling.
on.
God, that's
No,
so
go ahead,
funny
please,
you say
please.
that.
Yeah, but if the moon's not making you emotional every time, I reject the idea that the moon has anything then to do with emotion. If Mars affects your emotion 100%
It's
of the time,
composition division fallacy. You're saying if it doesn't happen all the time, it doesn't
that is
happen.
exactly what I'm saying.
That's not sound logic.
Mm.
Look, I'm
It is,
saying
and well, hold on. And if you're going to push back in the
I'll
argument,
let
me
you
give you the
finish.
full argument.
I owe you that.
This is my assertion as it comes to astrology. So let's use another planet, for example. Chiron, okay? Chiron supposedly what? Wounded warrior, something along those lines.
So
wound.
Chiron's a centaur, sort of a weird example, not a planet, but
Well,
okay.
But we'll just use this as an example because
That's okay. Yeah, he's a
people
wound.
don't know what
wound and
Chiron
healing.
does. And
Heals.
this is we don't have enough data apparently on Chiron. So what people don't they're going based on faulty information. It doesn't do what it says it does 90% of the time. That said, Mars does. It doesn't matter where Mars is. You will always be able to tell somebody's you will be able to learn about their body chemistry. You can learn about their fertility. You can learn about their, what do we call that, subjective mind. You can learn about their stress levels, their overthinking,
how they process energy, roughly their libido. Absolutely,
100% of the time.
100.
You can 100% of the time.
Okay, that's Mars. The
Yes,
moon
okay.
changes in the sky. The moon changes. Mars.
Well, hold on.
doesn't. So
Let me.
I just want to introduce that idea.
Yes. Okay, but Mars is probably the easiest one to look at. Saturn, 100% of the time, is going to speak to your ability to thrive here in the material world on one level, whether that's your physical body, your finance, your career, your the risks you take, the control that you try to have over the world, 100% of the time.
I get you.
This is not, the sun is going to tell you about that radiant energy that you're putting out 100% of the time.
None of them change like the moon. The moon has her own.
But the message should still then therefore apply. We can do this with the same thing. Pluto is going to do it 100% of the time. Everything. Hold on.
Okay.
The south node, like we just discussed, the south node's doing the same thing 100% of the time. Why are we giving the moon a pass? The moon either does something or it doesn't do something. And I assure you,
okay.
over thousands of readings, the moon does not influence emotion 100% of the time.
I'm not arguing that it does. I'm not. Okay.
Really? I think it does actually. I'm a kind of a moon person a little bit, but I don't know. I'm more of a Venus person too. I look at my moon, and my moon's cuspy. Okay, it's right in between Capricorn and Aquarius. And I don't like to be emotional. Actually, I don't like it. I need to schedule time for that. Okay, like, but then when I do, it's drama. It's Gabby knows.
Your Venus is on the Pleiades.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. A lot of these emotional traits, that's why I would have to distinguish. If somebody's talking about emotion, the moon's the last place that I'm going to look at. I just don't think it has anything to do with that. But you know what? We're entitled to our our differences and stuff. But I think it's good to have the conversation.
So here's
the moon to emotions. That's crazy. That's cool. I've looked that up quite a few times, though, the difference between emotions and feelings. With the moon, it's a little bit more fleeting. We experience it shortly, it goes away. With Venus, it tends to stick around a lot more. So that's been my understanding of it so far.
I'll say one more thing and then I'll stop and I'll just give the floor to you because I'll be done with this diatribe here. If the moon is in an emotional constellation, then it's not the moon doing it. The moon's activating the emotions of the constellation.
That's right. That doesn't mean the moon can't be emotional, but you're right. You're exactly right. So what I'm saying is the moon is consciousness. It's actually how we're processing our experience. It's conscious. It's ego, but that's not the whole story. It's a little bit more. It's directly, we don't know what it is. And sun and moon both represent consciousness. So the moon changes through the sky relative to its angle to the sun. And a moon in Cancer, a full moon in Cancer reflecting a Capricorn sun is going to be really different than a square moon reflecting like an Aries sun. Like, listen, the moon is the hardest to understand. It's the closest. It's the most we see it. It's we think, oh, that's the moon. I know what it is. You don't. And not you, Abby. I'm just saying, like, people think generally, oh, the moon is like this, the moon is like that. The moon changes, and what it does, the only thing, I'm actually 100% with you after you explain yourself, with a little caveat. I think the moon does do a thing consistently 100% of the time, and it apprehends the world and processes it. Consciousness, awareness, call it what you want. But okay, then we have reached a point that we can put that down.
Okay.
But I think it can be, in some cases, emotional.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Not 100. Not 100.
What you got, Don?
Just to throw, again, Stephen Forrest, I'm coming in from my perspective, the moon in the birth chart. I'm just going to focus on the birth chart, not the transit chart. But in the birth chart, the moon is those, and I'm going to just quote it here. It says the trans-rational needs and joys which you must be true to in order to maintain happiness and a feeling of well-being. Also, what is the most effective way which you can nurture, heal, and restore yourself? So that's the moon in the birth chart. And Abby, you said you were an Aries moon. I'm not playing with it. I have not studied the stars down to an individual point yet where I can say if a moon is conjunct this, it's going to be whatever. I haven't looked at that. But with the moon in Aries, as an evolutionary astrologer, you came here to teach the heart courage. Stand up for yourself, have courage and assertiveness. The shadow of that is the angry outbursts and the fear whether it is fear, whether it comes out as angry outbursts or you just trying to hide away and not be seen, the cowardly lion. The Aries moon likes adventure. Get up, go out, do something. In whichever way you do that. Adventure is going to be different for different people. For me, adventure is going actually outside my house and talking with people. I actually have a Leo that comes up with different. I work in a library. I like nice, cute, calm, cool, and collected. But for comfort, Aries moon needs challenges, newness, some degree of tension. If an Aries moon is living in a quiet environment, it's going to go nuts fast. It needs some sort of tension, some sort of challenge to fuel itself and to keep going. It can like competition. I mean, let's face it, we're dealing with Aries ruled by Mars, a little bit of that warrior spirit in there, so to speak. But again, a little bit of competitiveness. And we just saw a good example of that.
A little bit. Oh, no.
A little bit of competitiveness. Closeness and intimacy, relationships. How do you know an Aries moon likes you? They're going to tease you a little bit. It's just a little bit of, and again, these are and in evolutionary astrology, I tell people, like in Aries, if I were working with you, Abby, I would say these are the lessons for you to learn how to express yourself in this ways, how to learn to work with these things, how to try to make this an effective part of, and there's going to be planets and aspect to the moon beyond that. When I'm reading a chart, this is your moon. These are the planets that are aspecting the moon in some way, shape, manner, or form, and this is the influence that they're going to have on the moon. So it's going to be even deeper than that. But you know, there's Aries moon. That's what you came here to learn. It's not who you are. It's who you came here to learn, and that's the lessons. Those are the basic lessons. Step 1, basic lessons. Step 2, add on the planets that are an aspect to it. But then, you know, we're going to be talking about the transits chart. What does an Aries moon as it goes through the rest of the signs? What do those lessons look like? But even in the basic, the Aries moon in the birth chart, learning to have that inner courage, that inner assertiveness, learning to stand up, get up, go out and take action when needed. But learning assertiveness, healthy boundaries, stand up for what you believe, stand up for what you think.
See, John, I was born with it. I didn't have to work on it. Not a lesson. I rolled in like this.
You rolled in with it, but again,
I sure did.
Let's talk two bears, and I tell people, and this is, it makes sense. There's mama bear, papa bear, baby bear. You're dealing with Goldilocks. This one's too hot. This one's too cold. This one's just right. What's the next level of the lesson? I mean, I come from school. Kindergarten, you learn your numbers. You learn what they are. Then you learn how to count. You learn addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Now we're going to throw in fractions. Now we're going to throw in decimals. Now we're going to throw in long division. Now we're going to throw in even deeper levels of multiplication. Now we're going to go to trigonometry. We're going to go into pre-calculus. We're going to go into calculus, differential equations. There's and then look at an onion. Keep peeling the layer. What's the next layer of the lesson?
Well, okay, so I got to ask Don and Michael, I'm curious, where's your guys' moon? Oh, didn't you say your moon was in Capricorn, Michael? Yeah.
I have a 12th house Capricorn moon, very, very near to Aquarius.
Okay.
So
Don,
Nikki
where's
and I have
yours?
our moon sort of same area.
Okay. Okay.
I have an 11th house moon in Leo.
Nice.
Fit the bill? Does that sound like stuff you got to work on or learn, or is that stuff that you already kind
Yeah,
of?
absolutely. It's something I've got to learn.
Okay.
I can tell you the too much, not enough at all. I can share what's going on inside, or I can shut it down and say it doesn't matter. Even though inside it could be eating me up. It's like, I need to talk with someone about this, but it's got to be talking with the right person. And
How
that's
close to Virgo is it?
okay. By midpoint, it's 21 degrees of Leo.
So it's pretty late Virgo.
Nowhere
or
near
late,
Virgo. It's mid Leo.
That's almost
it's middle?
right.
It's
Yeah,
smack
mid
dab
Leo.
right in the middle. Of Leo.
Your Pluto's in Virgo, right? That'd be 12th house.
No,
Is that
my
correct?
Pluto's
Just from
right on the cusp of real close to the cusp of Leo Virgo.
Really? You don't look your age at all. Damn. Okay. Well, good on you. Well
I'm not going to tell you my real age. I joke people.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You don't
Yeah,
look a day
I
over
don't
21.
look my age at all.
No,
I tell
you don't
people
look
I'm
your
on the
age at
200-year
all.
plan.
You're a Leo Pluto cusp, Leo Virgo Pluto cusp. Well, that's interesting.
And I've got Uranus right over the border in Virgo, and they're by aspect they're conjunct. I think.
So time out, back up. Is your Leo above or beneath the horizon on the?
Mine? Below the horizon, well below.
Well below.
Below the horizon.
Well, okay. So here I'm gonna give you guys some pushback again. Anybody out there, if you think you're getting a call with me and I'm not gonna like challenge your ideas a little bit, like that's just not fun for me to not have a conversation about the deeper mysteries of life. So we gotta get over it. But all right. So the way that John, I read the chart like you do. I go clockwise. And the way that it's read is in the traditional 12th house, which is the first house. That's where that's your dominant energy. Okay. That's everything you're kind of like coming into this life with. And then we're going to go over to the quote unquote underworld or nether region of the chart beneath the horizon. So that's going to give us traditional 6th through 1st. Okay. So if everything's coming around, that means we're leading up to the first house. That's actually another way of looking at like your like what this whole life is about. What did you come here to do? And like, that's the journey, so everything beneath the horizon is stuff that you got to work on a little bit before it's really going to come to fruition. Now, depending on how deep down, so if it's like around your Imam Chali, that's like deepest, darkest place in the middle of the underworld, which means it can be a little bit harder to bring that stuff up and pull it out. So, and I realize not everybody does this, but I'm just giving you the pushback on the moon being things you have to learn. Is like I just said, like I just demonstrated, guys. I've been this way my whole life. I've mellowed out a lot. I haven't pulled anybody out of a car in such a long time.
But Abby, I think a lot of your moon placement has to do with pattern breaking, like past pattern breaking. That's what I think. Because it gives you the fuck around and find out vibe, like I'm gonna do this instead of staying safe and doing the type A thing. Like, because you type A and you know what direction you want to go in, but I think it just
But I don't think that comes from the moon, you guys. I don't see that coming
There's-
from the moon.
Yeah,
Like
nothing usually comes from one source. Nothing singularly, and people have charts. So I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of like what is and what isn't the moon through conversation. I just don't think we're going to get there.
No, you get there through.
But I will introduce. Well, okay. I will introduce some information that just if we're going to think about the moon and why it does what it does. In every chart today, we have lunar nodes. Now, we don't chart all the planets' nodes, so we don't know what the chart is talking about as far as trajectory of planets, like planets in 3 directions. But we have a moon, which is like, you can just think of it as present or current or like this lifetime. Then we have a south lunar node, which just talking about the emotional, or let's say perceptual, or we could say the patterns of being that are already established, like patterns within the psyche that you just, that's where we start, south node. And north node, the patterns within the psyche that the life, the moon, the present is drawn to establish, is magnetized toward. So we have a sort of like arc or trajectory for the moon, but that's not what I'm pointing to. What I'm pointing to is like south node and north node are lunar nodes. They're going to affect lunar functioning. If you have a moon in Aries and Joe has a moon in Aries, and your lunar nodes are like on royal stars, the axis of royal stars, you're going to have a totally overblown experience of that moon and your karmic journey. Where someone else's moon in Aries may or may not be pugnacious. They may or may not care about emotions. It's just, there's so many factors, but the main factor is that the lunar nodes are actually, this is like a 3-point with a single function. It's like 3 points with like an action. It describes through time motion, and that makes the moon further distinct, not just by its changing nature and its relativity to sun, and it's, as was pointed out in the comments, it's geocentric, or just kind of like it's a geodetic, it's not a planet. Like other planets have moons. Titan's bigger than Mercury. We don't count them, but we count our moon. And so there's so many wild cards. There's so many X factors when it comes to thinking about the moon, that we need to at least consider the nodes when we're talking about the moon. Because if we don't, we're just sort of making mouth sounds about, I mean, you know what I mean, about astrology, but it has more meat. It has more sustenance is when we consider that three-dimensional picture, right?
Yes, and I agree with all of you that like it's not we do everyone, even astrology as a field, a disservice when we try to isolate each thing too much. Like when you're doing analysis on somebody's life or their transits, because like everything is playing in as a whole. So
right. One thing, when I do a reading and when I'm talking with someone or working with someone, we have the ideal. When you're looking at a planet, it has an ideal. This is the ideal lesson you're going to learn. This is the ideal outcome. There's a flip side of the coin that I always pull out, and it's called I call it the shadow. And that's my cat Shadow chasing another cat.
He thought you were talking to him. He's like, come on, Shadow.
She just had 2 kittens, and she's very, she lost the last 2 litters. She's very defensive about these 2 kittens. There's the shadow. There's I'll call the dark underside, you call it the dark underside, whatever you want. And it's failing to learn the lesson in some way, shape, manner, or form. Like my Leo moon, I could, ideally I'm learning how to express myself appropriately, when to express myself, how to express myself, how to share all this, what have you. The shadow of that would be that drama king or drama queen. Sharing too much all the time. I have to be the center of attention, the whole 9 yards, what have you. We all know people like that. And everybody,
I'm a Leo rising. I'm totally like that.
I have a hard time picturing it.
The shadow is not sharing it at all. Locking it down. Hold on. Which cat is this?
Is the shadow thing, is that a evolutionary? Because I'm on board with that. I think that makes so much more sense than like the debilitation and
when I was reading, I'll pull up, I got my books right here. When I was reading The Inner Sky, and when I pulled up, there's when Stephen Forrest was talking about the planets, the signs, the houses, this is the ideal lesson. This is missing the mark. So I call it the shadow. He calls it different things. He calls it like the shadow, the dysfunction of Mars, touchiness, rage, selfishness, insensitivity, cruelty, sadism, bombast, irritability, chip on the shoulder. Yeah, to me, he missed something. That's the overactive Mars, the underactive Mars, insecurity, fear, cowardice.
Yeah.
So I think he got me started on that kick, and I was like, throw Goldie Block and the 3 Bears. What's too much? What's not enough? What's just right? So In evolutionary astrology, when I'm doing the reading, I'm working with someone. This is the ideal outcome. This is going too far. This is not going far enough. So, like with my moon in Leo, if I'm not sharing anything at all, I'm missing the point. If I'm playing a drama queen or drama king, I'm missing the point. But if I'm learning what to share, when to share, and how to share what's going on inside of me, I'm learning the lesson. And at the end of my life, did I learn to share what I'm feeling inside appropriately? Yes or no? 11th house within groups of people. And even with that, with the 11th house, there's a shadow. There's the ideal. There's too much. There's not enough.
Yeah.
That whole routine. But yeah, we're you can talk about the ideal, but I bring that up when I do my daily deep dives. I will bring up, this is what a shadow could look like. This is what missing the mark could be. And I'm still developing that in full, with each of the signs and with each of the houses, because Stephen Forrest, to me, just takes one part of it, and I like to develop what's too much, what's not enough.
That's cool. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah, I love when I get clients that have charts and they're like, everything's actually cool. Yeah, like it's rare. It's so rare.
Oh, yeah.
It's so very rare. Okay. But
Recommend
sometimes you'll get somebody that's
they
just
get
cruising
another
along. Yeah, and they're just cruising. Yeah.
They're going, life is too easy, they're missing something.
It's very rare, but most of the time I get real heavy stuff. People are going through heavy things, and they don't quite understand why the pattern keeps presenting itself. So Pluto being in the house, that's in both of your practices. That's the Pluto house is the focus of the evolutionary lesson in their chart, and then where the moon is where their the emotional lessons are connected and to the moon. I think that's what Chelsea was asking before. Like, how is Pluto connected to the moon and the nodes, and how is that all playing together? And I'm curious what you have to. I can think it, but I can't. Like,
we are going to get into that Saturday.
Yeah, that's Saturday.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about if the moon has a past and Pluto was there, how do we start to make sense of that in a chart way? How do we think about that?
Yeah.
Do we think about it as a soul who had a different ego expression? And the short answer is yes. But there's ways this expresses astrologically that can be really revealing and helpful to people. So that's. Let's save it for Saturday, right?
Yes. All right. Sweet. I know I've met a lot of people who have are wondering like why was I born this way? Like they really are thinking about it in such a deeper way. And it's really interesting that this practice is able to help people look at their own psychological profiles a little bit deeper. It's really personal. And it doesn't go off blaming parents or blaming your, ancestors, or even just blaming a past life. It's like, hey, this is the pattern. You're recognizing it. You're seeing it. One thing that I really, really loved about the studies I've done, is looking at the Pluto polarity point and looking at the polarity point of any type of heavy body like that. And that's been like a blessing, because people always ask, well, what's the medicine in this? You can tell me what all the shadow parts are, but where do I find relief? And that when I first started my practice, I'm like, I don't know. Let's talk about it some more.
No, first
and
people learn to first people learn to identify the problems, and then they, through like, well, what do I do with that? You look and you learn to identify actually the solutions too. They're both there in astrology. And I think one of the strengths of evolutionary astrology is that whenever it identifies or works with an imbalance, it's also looking to how to correct the imbalance and what is in the chart that is meaningfully symbolic of solutions. symbolic of balance to this imbalance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I would say if a chart's telling you what a problem is, it's giving you the answer.
To some
Yeah.
extent,
The
problems.
answer is in there.
Yes, to some extent I agree, but in other cases, then this is some of the things that were very specifically shared from Swami Yukteswar to Jeffrey Green in this dream. You know, I wasn't there, supposedly, and some of the more like specialized understandings of complicated problems, and even ways to look for solutions that like don't make logical sense, but like Swami Sri Yukteswar said so, Jeffrey Wolf Green said so, and I've seen these solutions, these like non-logical, like non-linear, non-rational solutions.
Yeah.
What?
What?
Yeah,
like for
what?
example?
Yeah.
Like what, for example? Okay, so let's say that the main thing that jumps out at me right away in regards to what I was just saying is squares to the lunar nodes, T-squares to the lunar nodal axis. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we have south
Yeah.
node and north node, we have an axis across the chart. And any body like here or here will generate a lot of harsh angular relationship. And when a planet gets T-squared to the nodes, it gets kind of caught in between past and future. And there tends to be a lot of vacillation. Like on midpoint, you see this with yods, you see this with a lot of midpoint features. There's vacillation. So there'll be an effect where they will, okay, let's get specific. Let's say I have Jupiter, and I do T-squared the lunar nodes. And my south node is in Pisces and my north node is in Virgo. So from Jupiter south node, so Jupiter T-squares the lunar nodes, there's often a problem with Jupiter expression in the life generally. The squares like just kind of, oftentimes people have a hard time like with their beliefs, with just being accepted. They'll have different beliefs. They'll be mocked for different beliefs. They'll be persecuted. They'll have, oftentimes they'll go through experiences that make them think the universe can't be conscious, or there's no God out there. There's no last turtle. This is all just bullshit. And I went through that. I went through that as a child. Very, very textbook expression of the Jupiter T-square lunar nodes. And what this says, this formula that is of the nature of evolutionary astrology, says that when a planet T-square the lunar nodes, it will attempt to organize itself via one of the nodes, but there will be a vacillation. It can never complete the evolutionary like ask of a node. It'll do north node stuff. I could do, my Jupiter in Cancer square to north node in Virgo. I could try and make sense of things. I could try and make sense of the universe. Is consciousness? Could the universe be conscious? Does this all mean anything? Is it Jupiter questions? But I'd never get there. I'd vacillate to the south node. I'd just go back to like Pisces. It's all one. It's all bullshit. None of this matters. And through bouncing back and forth through the south node, north node, I come to something that's kind of freed my Jupiter. But the wisdom is that you have to actually choose a node and commit. And there's actually a logic on which node it is, because the thinking in this, and it's not always north node. And actually, in my case, so I'm a good example, it's actually the south node. Okay, and this is a formula within EA that says the last node to make contact with the planet represents something that needs to be committed to. It's a formula. Now, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense that if I have a problem with the universe as an entity, if I think this is fucked up and I blame God, that I need to focus on the south node. You would think that a north node in Virgo, like, no, I need to actually like get that. I need to figure that out. I need to approach that. But evolutionary astrology says, no, that will only increase my problem. That will only paint me into this corner. In future lifetimes, I'll wind up with, Jupiter square lunar nodes until I work it out. The evolutionary logic says I must focus on the last node that made contact with that planet. So that's an example of like something that's not linear. It's not logical. Like that makes no sense. But I have seen these things. Like in my case, you could look at it as any time I'm doing North Node Jupiter stuff, trying to figure out life in the universe and the meaning of it all. I need to bottom line it with this South Node Pisces process, which is, that's a mystery. I'm never going to figure it out. As much as my Virgo wants to go, the bottom line on that process is South Node, right? And that allows me for freedom. That allows me an angle to like surrender and trust and actually let the mystery be what it is. I can put that in Virgo language, but I'll never be able to precisely tell you how the universe is or what it does or how it acts. And that's been my journey with that. And that's all to illustrate this formula for T squares to the lunar nodes. It's not logical, it's not rational, but it takes pressure off this planet in people's lives to have a solution. And I've seen it work. I've done this long enough to see that work, to have people come back to me like, what the fuck was that? Like, how did you do that? And then that's evolutionary astrology. I mean,
I forgot about
wild
that.
like
I
that.
forgot about that, using the last lunar node to touch that planet. I forgot about that.
It's got a bottom line, all the processes, or the person can continue to paint themselves into a corner. That was the wisdom revealed to Green on that. Yeah. It's
So you
pretty
end up
volatile
taking
stuff.
that. You end up taking that planet, square the nodes, and then look at the polarity point of Jupiter then as the relief of what is squaring your lunar nodes, which would probably be. Oh,
But you're putting a polarity point in there. You're putting a polarity point in there.
Can you?
And that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. I could, but in this case, it's not like we can talk about Pluto and a Pluto polarity point. What Pluto needs will always be where Pluto wants will always, Pluto's dichotomy and duality will always be symbolized by what's across the sky from him. And all planets have polarity points. All planets have polarity points that symbolize the balance, the axial balance, right? And so they're important, yeah. But this formula that I'm talking about actually doesn't include or necessitate polarity points for like planets. Even in Pluto's case, there's, and we may get into this Saturday when we'll look at Pluto Saturday. Pluto, the nodes, how Pluto and the moon and the nodes are interacting is going to be the main kind of focus for the workshop. And we'll address Pluto polarity point. But in this case, it's more just the planet and the nodes and a formula about what's important, what to focus on, and what to really like follow through with, right? How to bottom line that process.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
The polarity point's important, but not quite to this, not quite. So I don't want to confuse. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like I know Jeff Wolf Green talked about skip steps, and like I've fallen down the rabbit hole on all of the forums, and one of the things I read that really got me was if you passed away when a planet was square the nodes, like you're coming back with that and skipped step, and I'm like, how can you prove that?
Right.
Like,
Okay.
There,
okay. Hold on right there. Mark Jones of the Pluto School, and anyone can look this up. Before he was an astrologer, he was a psychologist, and he focused on prior life regression hypnotherapy, and he kept charts on his patients. Okay.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
He wrote as much of the book on skipped steps and planets square to the lunar nodes, which are the same thing. When a planet squares the lunar nodes, you kind of skip that step in your childhood, in your evolutionary development in this lifetime. And he agreed. Okay, it was because of Jeffrey Wolf Green's teachings that Jeffrey Wolf Green was teaching, like, oh no, skip steps are like this. T squares to lunar nodes are like this. If you don't resolve it, you'll wind up. And he's like doing this regression therapy and the T squares to the lunar nodes, he's finding people who had been in that conundrum like 4 or 5 lifetimes in a row. And it caused him to leave regression therapy and become an evolutionary astrologer. That's a decrease. That's a pay grade decrease. But he found more richness in it and more ability to help people through evolutionary astrology than even he felt he had the agency within his regression hypnotherapy. Now that's fascinating, but it goes to your question, which is like, how do we know? How do we know? There are some tools, and the tools we have to get into people's prior lives indicate the what's the word I want to use? They indicate the idea that that's accurate, that things can persist over lifetimes or become like real problematic like that.
Nikki, you're muted. Nikki.
It's true.
Yeah, you're a little muted. Hold on. Stand by. We're I got you.
Okay.
Nice.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot what I was even going to say. Oh, I do have a planet square the lunar nodes. I was talking about it today. Is Haumea, which is a dwarf planet, which is being studied by Alan Clay. Alan Clay, is that his name?
Alan Clay has a good study. Yeah. And soon, if you stay tuned to the Cosmos and Catonia podcast, you're going to see a deep dive on Haumea. Yeah.
I'm excited for that. Hell yeah, that is awesome. I'm digging into the dwarf planets a little bit, just scratching the surface. I like that it's gotten a lot more attention and a lot more, there's a lot more data out there. There's a lot more people watching. So I can take it in and just soak it up and absolutely love it. I actually just caught that last episode you and Fran had done about the galactic angles and the poles and how it's all lined up, and we're in like a precession quarter. Oh my God, that just, I'm nerded out. I was totally nerding out. I was like, that's it. Oh my God, that's so cool. Like that explains why everything's so weird, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to,
no, it's okay.
Yeah, it was so cool. I was like, this is like, makes sense when you look at what's going on right now from a geocentric point of view. Everything just seems so weird, you know, and just so off. Everyone's like, what's going on? What's going on? And when you zoom that lens out a little bit more and look at the bigger picture, it's so cosmic. it's incredible to me.
A lot going on.
There is. It's awesome. It's so
cool. And because of the ability to get like real abstract and out there, and there's so much space and so few boundaries, like having formulas, like actual formulas, like working, actionable, proven formulas that actually, you know, they become incredibly valuable. And astrology is like willy-nilly with like, I don't know, does this work or not? Is the moon in Aries or Pisces? Like where are we, folks? And evolutionary astrology seems to be I mean, what it looks like is that it came from like a higher outside sort of source through dreams and was tested for a decade. And I mean, I am like an empirical, I am like a 7 planets Virgo. Like if I'm going to do something, it's going to work. Like,
that's got to be rough. That's rough.
It is, and it has been, and I appreciate that recognition. But I'm past those stages of my Virgo existence. It's not rough anymore. It's a great gift. But it's 7 planets Virgo is rough. Virgo's hard to have a stellium in. But what you end up with is an interest in precision, and is an interest in accuracy, and is an interest in as an earth sign, it's pragmatic, it's utilitarian. Virgo cares what works. Virgo, interestingly, doesn't really care what's true as much as it cares what works. It cares what's true, but not as much as it cares, is this effective? And so I think just having effective angles within astrology, things that we can trust and know, things that work, and set this path aside, even within the milieu of tropical. You know, when you start to take that logic and apply it to the actual skies, man, it is, I don't know. We've all shared readings or had readings or give, you know, I mean, you've all seen it for yourself and to some extent. So, oh yeah, Trish, super stellium.
I'm in it too.
Get into some
I
of
should
the
have.
time. You're Virgo stellium?
Yeah,
Cool,
I got my
cool.
ascendant Jupiter and Saturn conjunct in Virgo, pretty close to the horizon. And I got I think a lot of people have Pluto in Virgo too. So yeah, we all got it.
Pluto
A lot of people who are into astrology have strong Virgo. Absolutely.
Yeah. Aquarius, Sun, Mercury, Mercury combust, Venus. Let's see, Aquarius, Venus, Pluto in the North Node, and it's some asteroid or another, but I don't actually pay enough attention to asteroids to be sure which one it is right now. That's my Virgo. It's all 8th house too, so 8th house Virgo, Pluto. It has been hard, Abby. Virgo's a crisis. Virgo's a crisis monster, and I've seen a hard life, but
it's a survival constellation, and that's not always fun. Being in survival mode on one level or another.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I have Saturn and Pluto together. They are like conjunct, you know. And then
you're one of them in Virgo.
Oh yeah, in Virgo.
Wow, yeah.
I get real.
So you're like a spiritual gangster. You're like a rebel with a righteous cause.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's in opposition. Its polarity point is like where my Mars and Mercury are. Like they're in direct opposition with each other. So it's been a really fun time. How I got into astrology was because I realized very quickly that I wasn't in control of anything at all. And I like to be in control of everything. I like to know, like what's going to happen next. I need to know. And it's been a trip. You could literally drive yourself insane, like with the whys and trying to figure it all out. It's like a second 9th house access. It's wild. And, I don't know if I'd wish it on anybody ever.
Yeah, I've been through stuff I wouldn't wish on anyone, even my worst enemies. I try not to cultivate those, but even if I had one, I wouldn't wish some of the stuff that this crazy. And I correlate it to the Virgo stuff. Virgo learns by crisis. Virgo evolves by going through crises. It's just Virgo learns to survive, and in the end, when you sustain and learn to prevail in those environs, you have survival skills. It's a whole different set of skills. It's a different set of skills. If anyone else here, I know Abby, you've done military, done some military. Nick, I don't know. We've never talked survival skills, but it's just a different skill set. You don't get it through doing ordinary shit. You get it through putting yourself in situations to test the thresholds, test the limits of your strength and endurance and so on.
Yeah, I've been tested.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I've been tested. Let me tell you.
I'm sure.
I was actually just researching Antares because my Jupiter and Uranus are right on Antares, and I think that's it's just such a deep placement. We don't look at Jupiter that much. I didn't actually look at Jupiter at all until I had a dream about it like a week or two ago, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then we had this recent lunar cycle, as Jupiter ruled. And not only did I get hurt, but I'm finding like a whole bunch of people all over the place had little minor injuries that turned into bigger injuries. So
I can correlate that.
Dude, it's just awesome how cool.
Yeah. We had a lot of hydrogen peroxide here. It didn't turn into a bigger injury, but it's interesting.
Survived. Yeah.
Survive.
Oh my God. I didn't think I was going to survive, but instead of wanting to die, back pain, you guys. Okay. I had back pain. It was just awful, but instead of wanting to die, it made me want to live more. I was like, wow, I can't wait till I took moving around for granted. I took this all for granted. It kind of changed my life a little bit, actually. Pain will do that to a person, and sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental. But I was I would grab my phone and message Abby. I'm like, I think it was the moon. She's like, the moon didn't do this to you.
That reminds me of that line in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when their cocaine blows away and the attorney says, "Look what God has done to us."
I that too. I was like, God did this to me. I was talking shit. I know he heard me. Well, I was telling him.
He's opening his blow, and the convertible roof is down, and it blows away, and he's blaming God. Like that. That's what makes it funny.
That's real. That's real.
It is. It's real. That's the other thing. That's funny because it's true. That's the other thing.
It is. Yes.
Well, you guys, we're right about 2 hours. I do want to know though, Nikki, because I cut you off forever ago, and I've been waiting for a time to let you back in and talk about it. But what were you going to say about Scorpio and Ophiuchus?
Oh, it's hard for me to not look at how the stars used to be when studying the ancient skies. So I kind of view Ophiuchus and Scorpio as one. You know, we had talked about way, way back. And I don't know who I talked to about this, but yeah, you know, I kind of see, I don't see like the man with the snakes. I see like a woman, and I see like, you know, stuff going on there. I see it anyway as like one constellation. And I'm totally, I don't know. I have a hard time separating the two. I have a hard time being like, Ophiuchus is this and Scorpio is this, when they're obviously like so interconnected.
I'm with you on that.
I tried to
help, but they're not absolute ideas. Like if Scorpio and Ophiuchus are one constellation to you, and you want to call it Scorphiuchus, like
no, we don't want to call it Scorphiuchus.
Don't call it. Yeah, that's a joke. But you know what I mean. If you want to think about it as being related from a point of view of ecliptic longitude, they're inextricable. So all I'm saying is that we don't have to adhere to Claudius Ptolemy's definition of the 88 constellations in the sky just because that guy was a Roman state agent. I mean, he was a propagandist. He did things the way he had to survive. That's the nicest argument I could give him. But we fix things in the way that he delineated them, and that's folly. That's folly. There's all kind of ways of looking at the sky, and we need to be somewhat flexible and open. Now, there's a lot in Ptolemy's, like in the Almagest about his stars, that's like very, very actionable, very good. Like the information checks, but it doesn't mean that because he could do some stuff right, that everything he says is doctrine. So I want to encourage you, because none of us got to be where we are right now by following the rules of tropical say-so or Ptolemy say-so or anyone say-so. We got here through experimentation and through trial and error and the scientific method. So I encourage that.
Yeah, and it still goes on. I'm still testing things. I'm still asking questions, and it never stops. And that's why I love this practice so much. Moving to constellational was such a big upgrade. It was huge. And I'm encouraging a lot of people to look into it and test it and try it. Yeah, I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Come and see. Put it on.
Yeah. Yeah. Put it on.
I think that's a good advice for anything. Try the stuff out. Like, don't take anybody's word for it. Like nothing. Go and try it yourself and see what happens.
That's it. That's why I like evolutionary, because Jeffrey Wolf Green wasn't, he didn't turn right around and try and monetize this great Sanskrit dream from a Vedic guru. Like how easy an impulse for a middle-aged white guy would that be? Let's monetize it. No, he sat with it for 10 years. That's dignified. That's actually really noble, I would argue, that him sitting with it and trying it out for 10 years before he even put it out to the world. That is a green flag to me, right? So I like that. I like that about him, and I like that about evolutionary.
That's cool. I didn't know that it had connections to Vedanta. I had no idea.
Yeah, direct.
I learned all kind of stuff today, you guys. So cool. All kinds of stuff, and I had a great time. I don't know about anybody else. I had a great time.
Me too. Yeah. Oh my God, you got to listen to some of Jeff Wolf Green's lectures. I just love his old lectures so much.
Wow. Yeah. What an astronaut. What a psychonaut. What a space case.
He's got some cool stuff on YouTube you can watch for free. So you guys check it out if you can. Especially the analysis or psychodynamics of the moon. That one's my favorite.
Psychodynamics of the moon. Cool.
Yeah.
Hot topic.
Yeah.
But still,
Well, we'll let you guys go. Thank you so much, you guys. If you haven't already registered for the workshop this weekend, go to, it may be, again, I'm not 100% sure if it's in the video description at this point, but it's definitely on the website, siderealinternational.org or .com or .net. They will take you to the same place. It's on the home page or on the event page, but definitely go check that out. Thank you guys again. Thank you, Michael and Don,
Thank you so
for being
much,
here
guys.
today. Yes, we had a great time. And we will see you guys on Saturday. And I'm going to see if I can handle switching over here to the outro music. But thank you guys, everybody who joined us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, let us know questions, comments, and we keep checking that stuff. So feel free to continue to interact. All right, guys, I'll let you go. See you next time.
Cool.
That our real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. As the raw rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Two stars rose in the dawning light. Nikki and Abigail lies on the night. Charting the heavens, the constellations true. Not bound by illusion, but by what's in view. But they whispered of summer, of gods in the flame, of an Anna and Inky who called them by name. Through shadows of dogma, they carry the spark. Guided by starlight to rekindle the dark. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. As their rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. As their rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Yeah. Maps redrawn where the cosmos spins through silence and science. Their song begins, no longer chained to the seasons' disguise. They brought back the truth in the watcher's eyes. The circle was broken, the truth made whole. With courage and reason, they honored the soul. For those who would seek what the ancients knew, the real sky speaks and the stars show. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. As the rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Ancient voices in the heavens turn. As the rises where the stars align, restoring the wisdom lost in time. Through cuneiform echoes and lunar signs, through Babylon's gates and forgotten lines, they lifted the veil with a steady hand. To see is reborn, to reclaim the land. Under the real sky, the vision's clear. The sidereal call for all to hear. As I rising with radiant mind, truth reborn in the ancient light. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Under the real sky, the truth still burns. Under the real sky, under the real sky,